actually get to do something very fun, new to us. And we actually get to help out a pretty dear friend of ours. And he's actually the friend of ours that got us into the Z32. We'll go on that a little bit more when he gets here, but we're actually changing the clutch in his front wheel drive Dodge Dart. I've never wrenched on front wheel drive except for my girlfriend's Kia Soul or that VR4 that we tore down, and that's all-wheel drive, so we at least have the understanding to do so. Went ahead, grabbed us some specialty tools, sockets, pry bars, and we're gonna start busting this thing out. Patiently wait for Noah to bring his car and his clutch over. Let's get started. Wow, the sun's bright. Well, he just pulled up and he's brought his clutch over here. He just went with an impact clutch, and I actually put one of these in my 240 a couple years ago, so they're pretty good. So far, we've just got the battery out. Now we're trying to figure out some of Dodge's mistakes of why this battery tray is so bolted in. We've got like 6 bolts out, and this thing is still pretty solid. And now we come down here to get 2 more bolts of the battery tray on the frame rail, and we discovered he's got an oil leak somewhere. So we'll be looking for that when we pull this trans out for sure. Oh, I take that back. We have an even dumber one to get to all the way in here. What the heck? I don't even think there's room to actually back the bolt out unless it's way shorter than the others. Got about 3 grams of sand in my eyes.
It's gonna keep coming too.
Oh,
I don't know why or how they got this on a beach, but there's so much sand in here.
Now we just hopefully got the battery tray out for good. It was actually connected down to the washer bottle, or the washer fluid. Back under the car. Yeah, back into the sand castle.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Ta-da! Now we got that turd out. Let's see if we can get this off with this turd. Oh, never mind. We got it. The Walt power. Luckily, we don't have to beat the crap out of this thing with a hammer and destroy a CV axle, because that dude just goes in and out. Surprising things for the rust belt. I actually had to go get these weird inverted torque sockets, which are actually called E-sockets, just so we can pull these subframe bolts off to pull this little cross member out. Because if we have this out, we should be able to pull the trans out after we pull this axle out. Or at least according to this YouTube video that we're watching, because, you know, that'll tell us everything we need to know. We also came over here, just loosened up this with the E-torques. Now we're going to separate the lower ball joint and the tie rod so we can swing this over here and out of the way. Then we can pull this CV out and actually have room to swing this over and get to the transmission.
Because if I hit it, I don't think I'll stop.
Well, hopefully this tie rod should yoink out. A couple of yeets later, and it looks like we got it out. Of course, it's the 3 yeets that I give it when I put the camera down. It's usually the way she goes. Finally, I went and got some pry bars at Harbor Freight, so hopefully we can get this lower ball joint out with the quickness. And I did notice, or I was informed today, Pittsburgh, lifetime warranty. I did not know that. A subframe brace reinforcement, whatever that thing is, it's no longer in our way. I'm a little scared to break his car, so I'm gonna let him give it the beans.
Oh God, dude.
So I just want to remove the shifter linkage. And all you gotta do is separate these 2 pins, and it actually just pops right off. So we're actually having some big troubles here with this ball joint. I really should have bought the ball joint separator last night when I got my adapter sockets, my E-torque sockets, and my pry bars. So we're actually going to head over there and check that out now, because we need one. We're going to get a pickle fork instead of the ball joint separator itself. Not only is it half price, but that seems to be best for the application here. But before we do that, someone has actually never ridden in my drift car. So before we go, since we just upgraded our fuel injectors, let's go ahead and swap out our chip. Should take about 3 seconds. ECU's installed, key in hand. Now let's hope this thing still got charge. Huh? It's got some battery. Will it start though? Nope. Wow, I have got all the gas. What the heck? I have never seen a gas gauge that high. I guess you guys did miss that. I left the GoPro going. Nice E85 cold start. Tons of condensation. Let this thing get a little warmed up and we'll take her for a spin and get our pickle for it. Yeah, like I was mentioning earlier to you guys, he's actually the one who got me into these cars. Because as a kid, we used to ride right by here all the time at our local gas station. And there was a Z that was blown up that had like a rod through what, 2 cylinders or something. Yeah. There was a tag on the key. The key's saying everything that was wrong with it. I never realized that was the car before the 350Z, because I liked the 350Z as a kid. And then when I found that out, it just sold me on it, because it wasn't as fat. Like my fat younger sister, as I call them. So really, if it wasn't for him, I probably would not be in these cars like the way I am, like an absolute crackhead.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Is that a boost leak that I just heard? What the heck? We had to stop and get some diapers before we head out.
Yeah.
So it actually turns out when I did my fuel injectors, I never tightened my hose clamps back down on my 2 intakes. So when we hit boost a second ago, it just blew off. So we'll go tighten that, then we'll get our pickle for it.
Yeah, 3rd gear was fun in the SRT too.
Time travel.
3rd gear was where I could hit like 15, 16 PSI. Every other gear I couldn't really get.
Yeah, I think I get like 5 pounds in 1st gear, maybe like 10 in 2nd.
You say don't die.
Yeah.
500 idle? Keep it like right at like 17 PSI. Dude, it took me every bit of all 5 gears to hit the speed that the speedometer just showed up.
We only went 80 kilometers.
80 kilometers per hour.
Got a JDM cluster. Forgot I got bad fourth.
Dude, there's gotta be people who pull up to this thing and look at it and they're like,
it's a piece of junk. Yeah, like Corey Bodkins pulled up to me. He's at the liquor store and he's like, you want to race? I was like, for pinks, yeah. I was like, yeah, it looks like junk, but you don't want to mess with this one.
Because I know if I would have pulled up next to this in my SRT, which also looked like shit, but it was slow too.
I still don't even think this is that fast. I'm used to it now. That's why I'm ready to go up to 600.
Yeah. I don't think I'd ever need more than
another 10 PSI. Now this is what I like the freedom to be able to do.
Yeah.
Hopefully this will be good enough. We went with the wider one, so hopefully we can fit the ball joint and not destroy it in the process. Little point and shoot mode. hitting like 16 psi and letting off and hearing them recircs just whoosh. Well, now we're finally back at the house. He's got a little bit of taste of what a Nissan can do over Dodge, you know. Now
we broke down 4 times.
Yeah, we had to get a tow. Z problems. But now, let's see. You guys don't need to watch. This thing just took us so much trouble, and you know we're gonna have to replace the piece of junk anyways. This thing should swing in and out, so we should be able to pull the CV axle like so. Literally just pulled the knuckle out and it popped right out. Now we need to get a pry bar up there and pull the inner side of the axle out of the transfer case, or transmission I should say. Ski. So to get this little linkage off, all I had to do was pry on it and pop it out. It's kind of just like a ball joint that sits there. Wow, that's a crazy clutch line right there. That's probably going to hold a ton of fluid. With a little bit of sadness, I'm here to say we actually have to pull the other side off. We thought we were going to get away with it, but the CV shaft is actually longer over here. The CV shaft goes way over here to the trans. Part of me is just hoping this one will be easier to kind of swing out the way. I really don't want to take another lower ball joint off. Oh, come on. There we go. Well, of course, when the GoPro dies, we did just pull this half shaft, CV axle, whatever out. Now we got to pry that inner piece out. This side ball joint, we kind of got it figured out without tearing the boot up too much. We've learned to wedge a pry bar in here and work it while you hit this, and you can tell that damage right there is insignificant compared to the other side. There's the difference from the driver to the passenger CV axle. Theoretically, I think now we are actually open to dropping the trans. Just a matter of getting all the bell housing bolts. We're having mad troubles getting these nuts off. You can tell the thing's just completely rounded at this point. I'm starting to feel like the only option we're gonna have is to cut it and potentially hammer out these studs right here after the fact. Not sure how well you guys seen that. We got that chopped off. Now to get this side, we're going to try to pull this heat shield for the oil filter housing slash cooler. I think we should be able to get straight in there to cut. There we go. Oh yeah, that exhaust hangs down. Oh, another clip. I really must hate myself today. I've let my camera run 3 times. I'm gonna have like a 2-hour long video to edit. Don't look at all the excess marks. I did accidentally trim that down pipe. It wasn't welded very thick. We'll have to fix that, but so we're kind of having some major issues with this clutch delay valve hardline. I don't know how well you can see. It's very shiny, so that entails that thing is rounded off as circular as all get out. Probably about 5 bell housing bolts out. Gonna see if we can yank all those out. Maybe twist the trans, drop it down and out the way. If we have to, we'll cut the hard line and actually order a new clutch delay valve just so we can get this done. But yeah, now it's a matter of, can't even see them really. Right there, yeah, those are bell housing bolts. Now we're lowering the trans with the last bolt, which honestly is kind of strange now that I think about it.
I think the whole thing was lowering.
I'm just confused. Why would it lower if my jack's underneath of it? Now we shouldn't be dropping anymore unless we allow it to with the jack. I hope we're down to the last bolt. Thought a Z was bad. This is like pulled 25 things off with the one. Out, there goes my finger. Well, if you can see down there, yep, there's a little bit of gap between the bell housing and block. Let's lower this slightly, keyword slightly.
Should I kick it?
I guess that was good enough. Now we really just got to get the rest of that bolt and this thing should fall out.
I was trying to do that, but I'm in a weird position. I might get my pants. You have to bleep that out too.
Right here. It didn't move. Now we're resorting to pulling the trans mount because we got this little thing that the shift linkage actually sits on that's holding us up. Big fluid everywhere.
It's like too far gone to trust it long enough to stick your head underneath there to see what's catching. Because if you touch anything, you never know. It may just fucking go.
Well, we're making progress somewhat. We're at least completely off of the pressure plate now. You can see all the forks on that. So now we just got to move it this way slightly and maybe up and over this, because we actually had to pull the hoist out, lift the engine, since the engine actually fell out of the engine mount, and that was the only thing that was giving us problems. It was sitting too far on our side and was taking up all the slack that we needed. So hopefully, not hopefully, but thankfully we're almost there. Oh. Ouch. Ow. This thing don't want to slide at all. Like butter. This thing's out, and that's all I got to say about it. I'm pretty sure we've both broken our knuckles a few times. Not to mention, and that is what we still have yet to get. We're actually going to wrap it up tonight. He's got to go home. It's time to eat, so we'll catch you guys tomorrow, next weekend. So it's just me today. Noah's at work right now, but right now I think we're going to go ahead, maybe clean out some of this trans, just get stuff cleaned up. We're going to change the clutch. Right now we're having a couple complications with this still. We did get the clutch delete, or clutch delay valve thing, delete, whatever. We got that coming in the mail. So we need to get this fitting out, and we got to keep this. I did find out how to remove this thing, and I'm kind of upset because we could have just removed this instead of breaking this and skipping this whole process and just moving it out the way. I guess we live and we learn, so let's get back to putting this stuff together. He just said he could be by here in like 45 minutes to use his Nip-X pliers on that, so hopefully that'll work. And I'm actually going to change the slave cylinder right here before we do much of anything. Torque spec for the throwout bearing is 12 foot-pounds, so there's only two 10 mil bolts. Actually, correction, it wasn't 12 foot-pounds, it was 88 inch-pounds. Last thing you want to do is over tighten them little dinky things. Now we actually just looked, and the pressure plate bolts are only 10 millimeter. So I think the impact's going to rip them off plenty easy. Well, we're not keeping this. Yeah, that clutch is cooked. Wow, even that pressure plate, thing's like as thin as my clutch. So as you can see here, the rivets, or whatever, I'm pretty sure they're rivets that hold these together, but that's literally right on the friction surface. So this thing is garbage. We also pulled out one of my Z clutches for reference, and well, all I gotta say is that's the guy she tells you not to worry about. So something Noah brought up is look at the springs on this compared to mine. Cute little things. Kind of our dilemma here is what is the flywheel side? And it's not really something we're going to be able to see when it plays back, but I'm assuming the completely flat side is the flywheel side. Actually the first dual mass flywheel I've ever came across, and they actually have like a ton of play. And we ended up looking it up, and that's normal. And we also seen we're not really supposed to reuse these, but we have no choice. We're here to save money, not spend it. So we clean that up. This disc should be ready to go. Next step will be to clean our pressure plate. Now I can't actually put the clutch in because the clutch alignment tool won't hold it, so I have to do both at the same time. But here you always want to spray your clutch with some brake fluid or your pressure plate and wipe it down with a rag. They always ship these with oil on them, so that way they won't start rusting, depending if, say, they get left out in the rain or they're in like a humid storage environment. Look at all that. Yeah, I know I didn't film any of it. New clutches in. And now to try to move this big paperweight or boat anchor, whichever you prefer. See if we can get it mounted up in here. Now this is going to be the least fun part of this whole job. The biggest victory of the whole week was just achieved. We got this freaking boat anchor back in, and the best part is we actually still have access to replace this hose from here to up here that I accidentally damaged because I'm an absolute idiot. Got 2 bell housing bolts at least started, so now let's see all of these we can go tighten back up. At least put 3 bell housing bolts in, snug it up, and then we're going to put the trans mount so we can at least get everything aligned and then go back and tighten the rest of these up. Finally managed to close the gap, and to do that we just lifted on the opposing side and I kicked it a couple of times, and we managed to get the upper one seated. Now we're on the way to victory. Let's place this in and see about how far off we are from mounting. Voila. But a redneck ingenuity always figures it out. Accurate. I guess we're gonna see and drop all the weight off since we got the trans mount on and not drop the engine on the ground. Hey, instead of forcing it and damaging something, let's just make it work. Theory, yep, it's not going anywhere. And we did manage to loosen this up so we can actually bleed the line. So this right here is how you bleed it. You have to actually pop this out with this clip missing to allow the fluid to travel out of this bleeder. Push it in, let the pedal up, etc., etc. But we're not there yet. Lower mount is now on, and I think our last bell housing bolt and officially the starter is now on and mounted. Axle time, whatever. I think we are nearing that point in our journey. Finally. We actually have 1 bell housing bolt, I believe, to be left over, but just means we put it together better than factory. Oh. Hold on, I got a rag in here still. Guide that bad boy in. Now we got 3 bolts to tighten here. Sorry you guys cannot see jack crap. Ratcheting wrenches are a gift from God. Why is there so many threads? This is probably the cruddiest part. Flexing our lower control arms enough to seat these cruddy ball joints. You're gonna let it up slowly. It's in there. See if you can try to push the bottom inwards. There it went. Yeah, one side done. Now we just need to put the bolt and nut right here, close that, and honestly, oh yeah, we got to tighten that tie rod, and then passenger side is done. So you actually got to use this like Torx bit here to hold the end of the tie rod to keep it from spinning. Well, you actually tighten the nut with a wrench, so that's what we have to do to get it to snug enough to actually torque it via 22 foot-pounds.
That's like the thing in the mail. It's just like, hey,
Torque. I nearly forgot. Axle nut. We almost put the wheel on without the axle nut. That would have been awful. Hopefully this wheel sits on the hub bore, because for whatever reason, Dodge is bougie like Audi and Volkswagen. I want to use bolts instead of studs. And now we've got 1 wheel on. Clear them feet down there, unless you got steel toe boots on. Now we officially only have this side left. We actually have that clutch delay valve coming in the mail, so we'll be able to remove this hard line and we'll bolt it straight to this. Thankfully we got the bleeder and everything sorted out as well, so we're in good hands. We're just at the mercy of shipping for that little coolant hose and that clutch delay valve. Starting to look like a car again, but he's actually about to head home and we're gonna wrap it up for the night. Wait for some parts to come in this weekend to where we can finish this thing out. Hopefully get another buddy down here just to help with anything extra we may need. Well, we're done for the day. Until Friday. What's up, guys? So it's been a couple days. It's officially the weekend. I did just get in there, pull the clip out. All I needed was some pliers. Pretty much you can move this thing right here to get a little bit of access to the clip, which is right there on that little piece behind the coil. Now you just wiggle it, pull that delay valve out, chuck it in the bin, grab your new fresh one, and all you do is pop that in and then put your clip in to secure it. Yeah, it's literally that easy. I don't understand how this even works, but if it works, it works. And hey, it's in, it's secured. Now it just needs to be bled. We're actually going to wait for him to do that because of the super weird bleeding system that you have to do on these. I think that means we can go ahead and try to install this here CV shaft. This should be easy. Since it's the driver's side, I don't have to bolt it up. It's the ball joint that's going to be the problem. Hey, we managed to get it on. We actually got the ball joint in too. So now we got this. We're going to impact it on. This on one end, impact on the other. And then all we got left is our nice little tie rod right here. Now that that tie rod's in, let's go ahead and put our subframe support in. That goes from right there up to the front end. Then realistically, we're done down here. We got a couple extra nuts and bolts and stuff for the fender liner here. We got the ECU / battery box, battery and engine cover. I went ahead and just placed the fender liner in just to test. We're definitely going to leave that one up to him. We didn't really take much of that out, but what we can do now is put this axle nut back on. Well, we tried to get froggy and make something work out of some Z32 heater hoses. However, Z32 heater hoses are not the same size on both ends, so only one side fits this and the other one does not fit that. Now we're seriously at the mercy of shipping. Now we've got both the parts in. We've got the coolant hose. Put a normal hose clamp on it instead of them crappy ones, whatever new style stuff is. It's a pain in the butt. And then we got this super specific trans fluid. New hose installed, made in Mexico. Now we've got a clear tube here on this bleeder, and as he pushes down the pedal, I have to pop this little bleeder out about 1/2 inch. You won't be able to see it, but that allows the pressure to actually go up into that tube, and as that is submerged here in this brake fluid in this bottle, it will only draw fluid back up and all the air bubbles will be bled. What does it sound like? So it's literally the next morning. I just came to get the vacuum bleeder and I'm just driving along the road and I see something laying on the side of the road, like, oh crap, watch out, there's a stick. It's a whole drive shaft. How do you lose a whole drive shaft and not know? Like, the yoke was perfect, so this was in a vehicle, but how do you lose a drive shaft and not know? That's insane. Now we've got the vacuum bleeder all hooked up over here. We've got a little bit of pressure build up and you can see it's actually pulling fluid out. So we finally got the bleeding set up to work right. Whenever we pump the pedal, we're actually getting pressure. Now the thing nearly blows itself off because it puts so much pressure in there. So let's get this thing bled out and let's get his car back to him. Check it out, we're finally making progress. Yeah. That'll work.
Where's this exhaust?
It's open, just downpipe, straight down there. We had to cut both the bolts, so now we're just left with Honda status.
Easy to cut a hole in
Yeah, put a hood exit. Lose pressure?
your...
You're just scared to trust it?
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
Holy shit, dude.
Are you even hitting the gas?
No.
Is that nice?
That's... Dude.
It's working like
it used to engage at the very tippy top. The engagement's all the way at the floor.
Oh, it is? It starts as soon as you let up? I guess it'd help if we didn't have the wheel chalked.
Where? The bottom?
It's just from your fender liner. It's just dripping water like crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, hopefully this ain't fuel. Yeah, it's not gas. Notice. I guess the engagement point's way at the floor compared to, I don't even know where it was, but that's where I put mine at on my Z's. Just yeah. Fan's doing overtime.
Why does mine sound better?
Yeah. So I don't know if any of you guys remember, but this is actually our old silver Z32. Brian's over here today and he's hanging out with Noah. So Brian's got a couple minuscule things he's wanting worked out, like squeaky belt. Clutch is a little wobbly, so it's going to need a Teflon nut tightened or replaced. There's a couple other little odds and ends, but it's always nice to see one of your old cars that you put a lot of hours into. And I always love how this thing sounds. If he ever goes to sell this exhaust, I'm taking it. Well, now everyone's all sorted out. We went ahead and changed Brian's PCV valves because he was leaking. Couldn't get everything else sorted with the time that we had today. So let's get a thumbnail. Let's send them on out of here to get some dinner. Well, I'm super sad. I missed the takeoff, but as you can tell, there's no more Dodge Dart in my driveway. Dodge, you really suck. I never want to work on one of you again, and I really don't plan on it. It's all gone. Noah, I hope the clutch works out good for you. Thanks for the opportunity of changing my first front wheel drive, and I can't say I'm too eager to do it again, but practice makes perfect. Thought it was super cool to actually wrench with my friends, especially Noah. We've been friends well over probably like 23 years at this point. One of the day ones, and still haven't got to wrench with him. Hopefully we get some more. We really need to get him in a Z since he's the one that got me into these things, and you know, make everything come full circle. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Sorry if it's not what you really wanted. Some Z content. I enjoyed it. I had fun. If you guys did, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe down below. Stay tuned for more content. We will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.